call this special meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7:34. If we please stand for the invocation, moment of silence by Mrs. Suzak.
On Sunday was Veterans Day, and we marched in the Veterans Day parade. And as I marched in the parade, I started to realize, these veterans have fought for our country and for the freedoms that we have in America. In America, as a nation, we're very powerful. We have a great responsibility with that power, that we lead, we defend, and we become instruments of change. And as I watched the vets, I realized that their service to America wasn't just for their time in the military, but it is extended through their lives. And I think just as the vets have committed to America, that we all should. And the challenge I have to you is to ask you to be a better American and to do something to make this country better. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our fire evacuation announcement. We have two exits out of this room. The first one to my right, go out the double doors, take a left, and go all the way down the hall to the double doors into the parking lot. The other one is to my left, go out these double doors, take a right, go right to the corridor, take a left, and follow it down to the outside of the building. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mrs. Suzak?
here.
Mr. Feely? Ms. Hall?
Here.
Mrs. Rancourt?
Here.
Mr. Janitis?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc? Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Grady?
Here.
Chairman Neville?
Here. Item 6, board guests. Do we have any board guests?
No board guests tonight.
Okay. And item 7, superintendent's reports. Dr. Schumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have the new principal of Enfield High School, Mrs. Krieger, with us. She, along with Mr. Newton from Fermi High, have been talking about a new focus for midterm assessments. And so we have what they've entitled Midterm Assessment Week, and she is here to give us an overview of what that's going to look like and answer any board questions. So we'll be using the screen up here, which you're ready and comfortable with?
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Okay, we'll get ready to go then. There we go.
First of all, just before I begin this, I just wanted to say this is my first opportunity to address. This is my first opportunity to address you as a board, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate and love being at Enfield High School. It's been a phenomenal opportunity for me, and absolutely the right fit, and I'm very happy to be here, so thank you. Mr. Newton and I did work together on this mid-year exam schedule, and this came out of our work with a lot of the work we've done with Ann McKernan this year. So let me just show you. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, so our exams are going to look a little differently than they have in the past. And there's a number of reasons why. We wanted to use our day to the best way we could, use a full academic day, but also not overload the students with too many exams in one day. We're doing some things differently at the high school level. We're now doing benchmarks, and I'll show that on the next slide, for 9th and 10th graders in a number of areas. So we wanted to have the opportunity for our students to take exams, but also take benchmark exams. And you can't do that in a traditional 2-hour block or hour-and-a-half block of time, depending on how they've been set up in the past. So this, I'll show you that in a minute, but this exam will show you on the first day of exams, exam 1 and 2 will meet for an hour and 37 minutes each, with a short break in between those two exams. And then the students will go into period 5, which is our lunch break, and period 5 is going to meet every day, as you can see. So on the first day of exams, period 5, those students will not be taking an exam. They're going to be either reviewing for their exam, which will be occurring one of the next days, taking one of the benchmarks that 9th and 10th graders are taking in some subjects, or doing what's called a performance-based assessment, something that will not require them to study the night before. We didn't want them to be in any position where they're trying to If you look at the schedule, the immediate initial reaction was, oh my gosh, they could be studying for 4 exams in a night. That's not the case, that's not how that will work. So the next day, exam day 2, is going to be the exact same periods meeting for the same amount of times, but as you can see, period 1 and period 2, on the second day, the students will not be taking actual exams. That's when they could either be getting a feedback from the exams they took the day before, they could be doing a benchmark or a performance assessment. So and then if you look at if you go down into this point, period 5, because that's the shorter period, it has to meet every day because it's our lunch wave, so it's meeting all 4 days for 56 minutes. The period 5 exam will be split over 2 days, but it still is not in a place where the kids will ever have to study for more than 2 exams. So on day 2, the kids will study for, they'll have to take the exam for period 5 class and their period 3 exam. Then if you go into the third day of exams, period 4 and 6 exams will take place. The period 5 period would be feedback, because they've already taken part of that exam, or benchmark or performance assessment. Period 7 will be doing review, a benchmark or performance, because they're going to be taking their exam the next day. And then if you look at day 4, period 4 is feedback from that exam they took the day before, a benchmark or a performance task. Period 6 is going to do that same thing. Period 5 will then have their second part of that exam that we're asking teachers to split. And then period 7 is their actual exam. One difference to this schedule is, I'm not showing it, but day 5, we used to have a day 5 at the end of the school year where teachers, where kids could come and do makeups, where teachers had that time to kind of correct exams and do all that. We're moving that day to day 5 here. Because what's happened in the past, and was really a challenge for teachers, is they were giving exams for 4 days and then starting a new semester the next day. The grades weren't done, students hadn't done makeups yet. With a full day, there's no real time for students to do makeup exams in this schedule. So rather than having a day at the end of the year like that, we're moving that day to this to the mid-year. But they're still going to have the same amount of actual instructional time over the year. They're not losing a day. We're just moving that. Any questions about this before I go to the next part?
Peter, did you have a question?
I do, but I don't know if it's, I'll throw it out now, I guess. Is there anything built in for English teachers? Because they do so much, their exams are written, and they probably spend
The most time correcting
way
exams.
the most time.
They do, and I've actually talked to some English teachers about this exam, and what they love about this is day 5 is a day they're not going to have students. So they will have all day that day to correct exams, unless they have students making up exams.
Is there any of these days where you have not an exam being given, but a class where maybe somebody who doesn't have to read as much could fill in and cover those classes where those English teachers get a chance to correct?
Probably not, because if you look at the schedules, they're still doing something academic in all of these days. But the one thing to remember is all teachers have 5 classes out of a 7-period day.
Yeah.
So in this time, if they have a 7th period prep period, for example, they're going to have that chunk of time as well. Or if they have a 7th period study hall or duty, there's not going to be duties during this exam period. So they all will have 2 periods in this, all teachers will have 2 periods within this schedule that they're not with students, which could really be.
Yeah, well, it's just something to keep an eye on, to
I
make sure
know.
it works out.
And the teachers talked about that with me
Oh, they
last
did?
year.
Okay.
Yeah, they talked about their experience last year, how they were going a full day, trying to correct those, we were having them still instruct in a traditional sense a lot of those periods, and then they were starting, especially English juniors and seniors, are all half-year courses. So all of those teachers were the next day having to start a whole
Nothing
new
worse than
class.
being married to an English teacher.
Okay.
During exam time.
Any other questions? Chuck?
Thank you. I'd just like to ask about the feedback versus reviews. I noted that the first day, there is not a review for either the period 1 or period 2. Would that take place
Prior to.
the day before or
Right.
weekend before, whatever have you?
Right. The way the exams are scheduled right now, they should be starting, as long as we don't get any more significant weather, the day after Martin Luther King Day, that Tuesday.
So about the 15th of
I
January.
think it's the
whenever it is.
22nd.
Oh, okay.
I think the Martin Luther King holiday is the 21st, so yes, they would review for those exams before it, just like they would traditionally. This builds it in so they can do it.
Okay,
during
and
the
on the fifth day, will there be a time frame for the period 5 and period 7 for a review? Or, excuse me, for feedback?
No, fifth day, we won't have students, there will only be students coming in who are taking makeup exams. So they would have to do that when the classes come back, if they're not a half-year course.
Okay.
But otherwise, they would do it when we come back from
So
exams.
feedback for those two periods may or may not occur.
Right, yeah. But in reality, we never had any feedback time built into the other schedule. So there's more opportunity for that than there was before.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, if a student has like first period study hall, are they gonna be able to come in late? Are you gonna give them that flexibility?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me show you what our.
Donna,
Oh,
you have
I'm
a
sorry.
Yeah, on the fifth day, the students are not in school.
They don't have to, unless they have a makeup exam.
Unless, okay, so the whole day is that way, not with just one exam.
No, and our hope would be to run a half-day schedule, because we could do 2 exam blocks. Most kids aren't gonna have to take up, traditionally, if they miss an exam day, it's 1 day. And
How
hopefully
does that
they can-
affect our 181 days that they have to be in school? The school is open, how does that affect that?
I believe it counts as a day, just like when we do it at the end of the year. It's the same
Okay.
setup that we had before, we've just moved
You
where
have
it was.
enough students in the school system? Okay, thank you.
Just a question about
Sure.
grading. And I note that I see how you're playing it out in terms of teachers grading, and certainly Peter makes a very, very good comment about the English teachers. When are grades due after this? I usually have so many days that they have to be turned in.
Right, I don't have the exact date,
No,
I'm
but it's
sorry,
gonna be
but-
after that, right?
Oh,
So
yes,
they're not-
definitely
They're not
after.
doing the fifth,
No,
the end of the
no,
fifth
no,
day. Fine.
no,
That's-
no. So this is one of the things, why we wanted to build a mid-year assessment week this year was, we have instituted benchmark assessments in English for grades 9 and 10 students on response to literature and reading for information. Social studies for 9th and 10th, they do throughout the year, but during this assessment week, it'll just be for the 10th graders and interdisciplinary writing. And then in math, a half cap. So this is not something we've traditionally done. Our kids already have taken their first benchmark in all of these areas, and so our goal is to, obviously have kids take these assessments more than once, use that information to drive instruction, and hopefully impact scores in a positive way. Okay. And then, this is one of the things, performance-based assessments are, certainly with the new Common Core, it's something that's really being talked about and encouraged. And it's a different way to assess kids, other than to really promote higher order thinking and coming up with, testing students in a way that is just not memorization and studying. And so it's about doing tasks that are going to measure your performance. So they're direct measures of student performance and tasks designed to incorporate context, problems, and solution strategies. They focus on processes and rationals. There's no single correct answer. That's an important piece. They involve projects, exhibits, and performances that are linked to the curriculum. And the teacher is an important collaborator in both the creation of the tasks and in developing guidelines for scoring. So what I did, knowing I was going to be talking to you, was ask our teachers, can you give me some examples of performance-based assessments you've done with your students in the last year? So I got lots. The teachers were wonderful. They gave me way more than I could put in this presentation. But I wanted to give you some examples. In earth science, the students did a project. And it was, you will take on the role of a planetary scientist to ask to help research and create an indigenous species suited to a particular planet or moon in our solar system for a new science fiction movie. But they had to know all about that planet or moon. They had to know everything about it in order to do this. And so it was a very in-depth, it's not one that they could actually do in an exam period, but it was a great project. And as you can imagine, something the kids got really into doing. This is an art one. This is a real project some of our students did, and it was to sculpt a shoe in clay, choosing either a representational or imaginative approach. So there were 2 different styles. This is the representational. I didn't propose it in there. This is you can see that it's a lot easier to do performance-based assessments in things like art and music, but they can be done in all areas. Here's one in world history. Create a board game. Your purpose is to develop an understanding of the rise and importance of of Roman civilization. It goes very specific. Show knowledge of the Roman Republic and Roman Empire, provide clear directions, offer rewards and penalties for right and wrong answers, and must be visually appealing and well organized. So if you can do this, if you can create a game like this, you know this material. And you're playing this game, you're helping to teach it, and as we all know, if you can teach something, it means you know it. This is a marketing example Mrs. Stone gave me. She had given her kids a quiz on marketing pricing strategies, and they did pretty poorly on it. So she ended up doing this exercise where, in order to understand the categories of pricing strategies and how they're used to entice consumers to purchase products, she provided students with a list of strategies that she had already taught, and then she instructed them to find examples of those strategies using newspapers, magazines, flyers, and computer ads. The kids then went through all these resources, they cut them out, they posted them on next to the pricing strategies. It was a group activity, they worked together. She then gave another quiz after, and the students' scores increased by about 20 points. Not the same quiz, a different quiz, but you can see from applying it and using it, it made sense to the students. And this is the last one. Child Development Lab. We have a child development program. We run a preschool. The kids learn throughout the year how to create lessons for preschoolers. And then this was the task sheet. And this was actually on an exam. Create an age-appropriate lesson for preschoolers using one of these themes: dinosaurs, summer, rainforest, or space. And then draw from the information you've studied in the textbook, lessons designed prior to the preschool beginning, and other students' lessons that you've seen, and then these were the guidelines. The lesson plan format had to have objectives, materials, procedures, and assessment. So this is the real application of what they've been learning in the course. So these are examples of performance-based assessments.
Joyce has a question for you.
Yes, Joyce.
Will these all be done individually or collectively, or a mixture?
I'm not sure what you mean by,
Your performance tasks?
it could be
It'll
any.
be up to whomever
Yep.
is setting it.
Exactly. And that's what it talks about the teacher being the important collaborator. Some of them will be, as you can see, can easily be done collaboratively, and some of them do better as an individual activity. That'll be the teacher's decision, what they want to do.
Would have any other questions?
Is that starting this year?
Yes, that will begin this.
Jen?
And the 11th and 12th graders will have prep time. They'll still have some kind of activity during that time.
Yes.
You said there were specific things for them.
They won't do
for the 10th
benchmarks. They don't need to do
But
that.
they'll do
But
other
they can,
activities.
that's why they can do any of those things in those those periods that I listed.
Yep.
Could be review, it could be benchmarks, it could be performance assessments.
Anybody else? I have one question for you. Is what you do in the midterm going to be the final as well, the same type of structure?
I don't believe so. I think our plan is to do a more traditional exam schedule in the end of the school year, with the understanding that we don't want to get totally away from that idea, because we're preparing kids for college and exams like that as well. But also, that schedule, not having that day at the end, that idea that having makeup exams in the afternoons and those kind of things at the end of the year probably makes more sense.
Okay. Just as a final question, what do the kids think of this? We could ask two. We have two
yeah.
here that may be taking part in it, but have you surveyed the kids?
Well, the very first reaction we got was, I think, some panic from the high-end kids, because they heard about an exam schedule that had 4 potential exams in a day. And they were good. They came right to me. They said, when
You can't do
teachers...
that.
Yeah, and I said, no, it's not going to be that way. That's our job to make sure that this works for you. And I've gone back to some of those kids who approached me, and they seem much more comfortable with this idea. In reality, would they all like to get out at 12 every day? I think most of them would prefer to get out at 12 every day.
Do you guys have any comments on that?
That was a lot of the students who were talking about that as well, but Ms. Krieger cleared that up. I feel it's pretty similar to last year's end of the school year schedule, so I think we're used to it by now, and I think the extra time to study during the prep periods, that help. So.
Can we go back to the schedule at the beginning? Because I have a question. The exam day 2 schedule, why would we have a period 1 feedback? I mean, we could have maybe a period 4 review, and then when it says period 2 feedback, that could be a period 6 review. I'm not sure it has to be period 1 feedback, period 2 feedback.
I think because it's hard, because you'd end up with too many period 4s in that schedule, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. But you
But
could
you're
always-
right, I mean, the review is gonna have to happen at a different time in those classes where that doesn't work. And then we absolutely need the double period because of these benchmarks in those courses that have them. We need to have time that they could do a half a capped and then also take their regular exam or that kind of thing.
I feel like you could just switch exam day 2 and exam day 4 and just do period 1 feedback on day 4. It's not really going to matter when you get the feedback, but it would just be more beneficial to have a review before period 4 and period 6.
Okay.
But otherwise, I mean, it seems very similar from last final, and I like the final a lot more than last midterm, and I think a lot of people agree. Of course, a lot of students just want to get out early, but
What was the midterm like for you guys last year?
it was really short. We had, I think we had 2 exams in the morning, and they were both hour and a half, and they were back to back. And then like you had maybe 3 classes in the afternoon that were like 25 minutes long, and it was any number of like either what you just had or what you might have at the end of the week. And it was really kind of just confusing and wasn't really beneficial because people were just talking around class and not really doing any work. Or
That's what I had heard, some feedback around those kind of things, that students felt like, and teachers too, felt like it was kind of busy time.
yeah.
Chuck?
Just for clarification, so basically you're saying that period 1 on day 2, you'd rather have a period 4 review, so would that also, would you be interested in a period 6 review instead of a period 2
I think that is what
feedback
she's
on the
saying,
same
right?
day?
Yeah.
Okay. That would make more sense.
To do both, you mean,
Right,
to do
right.
both, if we're gonna do it.
Yeah, if there's going to be a change, I can see the point of, personally, I think I'd rather have a review than know where I messed up before.
Especially for an hour and a half.
Any other questions? I think it's interesting. I've always had some concerns about having them out at 12 o'clock and, you know, hopefully there was studying going on, but not always. It also created a nightmare with the buses for the other schools, so I mean, I just
Right.
selfishly was problematic. But I think very interesting. I'm glad you guys are trying it out anyway. I like the idea of the benchmarks.
Yeah,
And then-
I think that's really important for us to do, and I do think it will have an impact. I think we'll see, I hope we'll see some immediate
We'll
change.
learn from it anyway. We all
Yeah,
learn from it,
exactly.
so. Very good.
In reference to the reviews, there are 3 periods where you specify reviews, and that's representing only 3 classes.
Well, let me just be, that's just, they don't have to review. They could be doing a benchmark or a performance-based assessment. If they don't review here, they'll review before the exams. Everyone will get a review.
But I was just addressing what Chuck
Yeah.
had said.
Yeah. I hear that.
That's true, basically.
But the one thing I'm thinking, if we did a period 4 review on day 2, and then we did a period 4 exam on day 3, and if that class needed to do a benchmark, when would that happen? You know what I'm saying? So that way it doesn't work either. I think I think they do have to review, obviously, but I think in those
Period 4 has
courses,
benchmarks on day 4.
it's either or.
Oh, it's either.
Yeah.
What she's saying though is if we move this to day 2, that's what she's suggesting. And what I'm saying is if we did move day 4 to day 2 and
Well,
flip-flop
I think
those,
they were just asking for review. I interpreted it as review on day 2, but you could still leave benchmark and performance on day 4.
but then period 4 would be meeting 3 days, and we can't
Yeah.
make that happen.
My assumption would be that once you go through this, you'll do an assessment and tweak it, you know.
Yeah, this is the first time we're doing it like this.
Yeah.
Obviously, you did something similar last year, but we'll see.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you very much. Sounds exciting.
Dr. Schuman?
Thank you. There are 2 other items on the superintendent's report. First of all, school closings regarding the Thanksgiving break. On the Wednesday before, the 21st, school will dismiss at early, at half-day. Lunch we serve for students in grade kindergarten through grade 5, and obviously no afternoon kindergarten. And as a reminder that school is closed on Thanksgiving and the Friday afterwards. So we reopen on the following Monday morning. The other thing that's getting organized right now is the superintendent's book club. Ms. McKernan and I are going to be hosting these and running these. We're going to be looking at a book by Daniel Pink called Drive. We're told that Barnes & Noble has reordered and they've restocked their shelves with a book. We've got about 20-25 teachers and administrators and central office staff interested. And we are intending, as you see on the schedule, to run those discussions from 4 to 5:30, take a very short break, and then invite anyone else who'd like to come to those meetings and join the book club to let us know. We'll run another session from 5:45 to 7 if there's an interest for that. So if the public or the board members would like to participate in the book club in the second sessions, board members may participate in the 4 o'clock session if you're available. We thought that the 5:45 would be more conducive to your schedules, but you're certainly welcome at the 4 o'clock. So we're going to see what kind of interest we get. Anybody interested from the public or from the board is asked to contact Ms. McKernan, our Chief Academic Officer, and let her know that you'd be interested in attending those sessions. And if we get, folks have a good discussion, we plan to go forward and run the second session in the afternoon as well as the one for our staff at 4 o'clock.
Dr. Schumann, who recommended these books and they've been previewed?
I've read the books. And it's my book club, so I get to pick them. But yes.
Have they been reviewed by the curriculum committee?
I assure you, we will not go down that road, and publicity will all be positive.
Next one, Peter.
All 3 of these dates are Wednesdays?
I think so.
Very possible.
I think they are. Yeah.
I have to look at the calendar, I know that.
Yeah. I'd have to look at Never mind.
Okay.
It's easy enough.
Moving on to item 8, audiences. Is there anybody that would like to address the board?
Thank you.
Okay. Item 9, unfinished business. I don't believe we have any. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the item 10, new business. And I believe that I'm the one that asked to have this put on the agenda. Those of us that went to the graduations at Fermi and Enfield this past June, it began at 6 o'clock and was probably one of the hottest days of the year, and I think it was on the 21st, which I believe is the longest day of the year, if I'm not mistaken. It was very, very hot. And one of the other things was the way the sun came down, particularly in the high school. It just was in all of the speakers' eyes, and it was just a nice session, but the heat was unbearable. And we talked about it, and when we were there for the hour afterwards, we said, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we started this 1 hour later? And we thought there might be some benefits for people who were trying to get out of work and get there without taking a half a day. We thought just by the angle of the sun, if it's a sunny day out there, it will certainly make it easier for the people to do it. And we like to have it out there. I think the kids like to have it out on the field as well. And then I think it may, if it's a hot day, alleviate some of the other issues with people having issues with the heat. And even though we had the water and all that stuff, pre-staged there was still a problem. So in talking to the parents who were running the graduation event afterwards, they weren't too worried about it from what I can understand, but they just wanted to know because they had to plan around that date. So I'd ask that we bring it up here and talk about it, and I know some of us have been going back and forth with emails about some things about it. So what I'd like to do is bring it up for action so we can discuss it and perhaps have a motion to do it and then have a thorough discussion on it, if that would work.
You need a motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to start the graduation ceremonies for both high schools at 7 o'clock.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jen. Discussion. Chuck?
I'd just like to point out a couple of things. I don't have a real big issue with the 7 o'clock. Personally, it works out better for me, but I do want to make sure that everybody's aware of it. I did a little bit of checking, and the second 2 weeks of the month of June, sunset is at approximately 8:30. Now, I'm not sure how the Enfield High is going to be doing their graduations this year, different from previous years, because we have a new principal. But in previous situations, the Enfield High School graduations have really taken probably roughly about an hour and a half or so. And if we start these things at 7 o'clock, it'll be virtually sunset or very close to it, either one way or the other. And I want to make sure that any adjustments here we prepare for it being dark at the end of these things. We probably end up having to turn the lights on the fields. And I also want to make sure that we have some sort of portable lighting available so that some of the parents, grandparents that do show up to this don't accidentally fall or trip or hurt themselves walking out of it because of the darkness. And that's my biggest concern. If we can move this back by a half an hour so that we move it to 6:30, it might be worthwhile. Or if we, just so long as we have some lighting available, I think that would be sufficient also.
Peter?
I think one thing we could do is, besides the lights on the field, some of the, I don't know if the town owns them, but that stuff that construction companies
Right,
use.
the portable lighting.
They do,
They
so
do.
you could always get some of those.
Actually,
set up.
election day, they had one set up
At
outside.
Enfield High, yeah.
Those for heat.
No, but
okay,
they
got
have,
it.
yeah, and just so long as we have
That would do the
some
trick.
lights available so that we can light up the, particularly wherever the handicap places are going to be and a pathway to that area, I think that would be virtually mandatory, particularly if it's going to be getting dark. Getting dark is one thing, but people tend to want to stick around for 15, 20 minutes and congratulate everybody, and by the time you're leaving, we're probably talking it'll be 9 o'clock by the time people are actually leaving the facility.
I think getting the lights would be simple enough.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we have to be concerned about, I don't know what it was like at the other schools for voting, but at JFK, we got to do a better job on directing spots to the handicap.
Yeah.
Correct. They were supposed to have signage, and
They had them, but I mean, if you were driving in, they were
they
just
did, there was something
weird
that happened
spots.
along the way pointing, and I agree with you on that, Peter, that was problematic. Are there any other questions on it? Jeff, did you get a chance to talk to the principals about it?
Yes, well, Jill is here, no, we have talked about it, and, they don't see a problem with the safe graduation issue as long as we notify them with plenty of time.
Right, I talked to our safe grad coordinator, and she was okay with it. She thought they wouldn't have a big impact as long as they knew it.
I know that Mr. Newton used to pride himself on having 60 minutes
And he does.
start to finish, and they used to get it through, so it wasn't an issue. I know sometimes at Enfield High it was a little bit longer, but I don't know what you plan to do or how you plan to run
We
it.
actually,
Yeah.
want me to speak to that?
Yeah, go
Would you
ahead.
like to? Dr. Schumann has actually talked to both Mr. Newton and I about wanting to meet with kids about kind of getting them much more involved in the graduation, and probably having our graduations look more similar, but having them very much involved. And one of the things we've done at Enfield High is have a group. I have 12 students that I'm calling the Principal Senior Advisory Council. They're recommended by people. Brandon's one of those kids. So that's a resource that we're going to use. Dr. Schumann's coming over November 26th to meet with that group and talk about it. So, I don't have a, real clear idea of exactly how I want graduation to be. I obviously want it to be a meaningful event for kids and their families, but I'll certainly work with everybody.
And we'll be going over on the following day, on the 27th, to have lunch with a similar group at Fermi High to get their input and see how they want to have their graduation.
Vinny?
Well, I'll ask our two representatives, how do you guys feel about it?
I've been to a few of the graduations. I think it is hot being out in the bright sun. But the only concern I was thinking about was photography and video cameras. Is there going to be a problem with that and the lighting? Especially at the end. I mean, that's when the diplomas are being handed out and they have the professional photographers and everything.
Particularly when you start talking about the last few graduates, it could be getting very dark at that time. That's why I was recommending that we make sure that the lights go on. I'm not even sure if that would, would make the, video or picture taking any easier, depending upon what kind of lights we have. I think those are mercury though, aren't they? They're white lights, they're not like the sodium lights.
We've seen the football pictures with
Right.
under the lights and they're
Right,
absolutely
and-
fine,
yes.
so I don't think it's gonna be a big deal.
That could be kind of neat.
Yeah.
Inexpensive.
Can we get those purple lights?
Well, we have the lights, we might as well use them.
We use them for a game, I
Right,
don't see
you
where
use
we
it
would
for
use them
football and other
for this,
things
if we
and-
would do it. I mean,
I know the town council, when they sit there, they always say, why is this not 45 minutes later? Because, especially at Enfield High,
Enfield High is
as the sun
particularly-
goes behind those trees, you cool off substantially.
Mhm.
And
Right. So we could do this one of several different ways, and my recommendations is to either move it to 6:30 and see if that helps. 7 would probably be better for most of the parents and things like that to be able to get in and get on site and not have to leave work early and that kind of thing. But we do have to make sure that there is lighting available,
it's
particularly.
with adequate lighting.
Yeah, particularly when you start talking about leaving. I mean, there is, the last thing in the world we want to do is see somebody get hurt fairly badly because they tripped over something that they couldn't see.
It is dark when you're leaving those football games.
Right.
Like, not on the field or that area, but as you walk up.
But as you're
We
walking
do
towards the
need
parking lot, the
auxiliary
lower
lighting.
lots and
Between
things like
between the
that.
town, or even if you even ask the fire department to covers the district, I'm sure they would provide a lighting.
they have them.
You have lighting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
If we could get
It's a
something
good point,
similar.
it's a good point.
If we can get something similar to what was at the elections where they had the towers and the lights, I think we'd be more than adequately safe there. but-
They'll make it. I mean, 2 hours, it's 9 o'clock, you can still see.
Yeah.
It's still dusk, and if you say 7 o'clock, it starts at 7.
Yeah.
You just,
Yeah.
that's it. And maybe there might be something, if, you watch for the first 2 weeks before, if it looks like something, it's not gonna make it, maybe you just flip something in the schedule. Give out the diplomas a little earlier.
It's worth trying. Okay. Any other questions? Kathy, could you do roll call?
Oh, sure. Mrs. Suzak,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Okay.
Mrs. Rancourt,
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Grady,
Yes.
Chairman Neville,
Yes.
motion passes.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think that takes care of the new business. Moving on to item 11, board committee reports.
Have you all done your assignment?
I will tonight. No.
Thursday, the 15th, is the day. Now, Kevin absolutely promised that he would provide feedback.
Have you gotten anything yet? From him? Have you gotten anything?
No,
from him yet?
nothing. So,
I'll get you mine.
fine.
Joyce, I was
There
counting on you.
are some kinds of things that we actually are considering and concerned about, like funding education.
I like that.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. No,
There
I'm
are
sorry.
several different ideas concerning that here. And tenure, budgets, student achievement and assessment, which of course is something we're very concerned on as a board. But the recommendations are here. They've been made by committees of CABE for the purpose of the delegate assembly to discuss it and vote on them, whether we go forward or not. And it usually ends up being contentious about a number of different issues before the afternoon is over. So if any of you have any serious concerns about any of the items, please let me know.
Thank you. Joyce is our representative at this meeting, so I know she'll represent us well. Are there any other committee reports? Okay, item 12, board member comments, and since I always start with them, I'm going to start with Fermi High down here.
Okay, so last Monday, November 5th, Fermi had its National Honor Society induction ceremony, and we now have a total of 68 members with 35 new members. This Friday, Fermi Lamplighter's will host their production of Squad Room, and it'll be at 7 p.m., but they'll also have 2 showings on Saturday at 2 and 7. And finally, we already kind of mentioned it, but Dr. Schumann is going to come on the 27th to have lunch with the senior class officers, and then me and my assistant, Emily, and we're going to talk about changes to graduation and how we can get the students more involved. Other than that, November's been pretty quiet, so turning it over to whoever else.
Ed Gilhai.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Krieger, but I believe the girls soccer team was the only team to make it to states this year for fall season. They had their last game, and they unfortunately lost in a penalty shootout after going into overtime, but they did a good job, so commemorate them. Our youth vote committee, they had held their youth votes at the elementary school, and I believe they had a good turnout, so that was good. And finally, our Rachel's Challenge sponsored a Switch It Up Day today in the cafeteria. They encouraged students to sit with new students, to meet some new friends and stuff at the lunch tables. They had different colored construction paper on the table, and they handed out candy that had the colored wrappers on it, and you would go sit with that table, and it's fairly successful. So, that's it.
Very good. Peter?
I'd like to thank those people who worked very hard to inform the public about the benefits of the consolidation of the high school. And I'd like to thank the public for listening and voting to consolidate the high schools, because the price was definitely right. One of the things that I'm concerned about is the looking at the in-school and out-of-school suspension lists, particularly for JFK and the 2 high schools, and some of the incidences that are happening versus what they're getting for in-school or out-of-school suspensions, which many times is only a day for something like stealing from a teacher's desk, punching somebody, physical altercations, walking out of class, profanity, inappropriate language to staff members, disruptive leaving class, disrespect to teachers, towards bus drivers, threatening behavior, obscene language, giving false information, dishonesty and disrespect towards teachers, physical altercations, threatening behavior, and accumulation of behavior referrals. That's the middle school. Let me do the high school, and then I'll tell you what I think we should be looking into. As far as the high schools, again, most of these are just getting 1 day suspensions. Insubordination towards teachers, refusing to give up cell phones, grabbing other students, inappropriate language towards staff, insubordination, disrespect, refusal to report to a VP office, leaving class, leaving school grounds, physical altercations, repeated disruptions in class, eating in class, skipping class, slapping a teacher's hand. I believe that one only got 2 days. Throwing a banana across the cafeteria, it's one of my favorite ones. Insubordination, refusing to give up cell phones to administrators, repeated gross insubordination directed at staff and administrators, disruption of the learning environment, bullying, fighting, and being under the control of influence of a controlled substance. Having been an ex-teacher, I know when I was still teaching and when I was about ready to get to leave, the idea of in-school suspension is good, and I know the state has passed some, what I consider some wacky laws as far as be disruptive or commit some of these things. Maybe there should be a class, a quarter class. That's where the kid's going to be for that particular quarter. Maybe we could do something where they can come in an hour later, but they're going to stay an hour later. That's a disruption in their life. Something to get these kids to realize this can't be tolerated anymore. And it's been going on and on for quite a while. And it's something that's bothered me for an awful long time. Because what happens is some teachers will, I know I used to handle most of my problems, because it's easier to handle it yourself than send them down and one thing leads to another, and then the kid walks out and he's got his chest thrown out, I got a day. And then there are other teachers that do constantly send kids to the office, and it's not helping in the classroom. So I think we should, as a board and as an administration, kind of look into see if there's something we could do to maybe hit home a little harder that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated, and there's going to be something more than just a day out of school. I still, and I'm going to keep saying this, I still think the board made a mistake when you moved board comments so far back. I still think it should be butted up against audiences. And also, I would like to have the superintendent, if you can, look into the legality. I think I know the answer anyway, but the legality of possibly having negotiations with the teachers union and the administrators be done in public session. We're here to represent the public. We negotiate on the public's behalf. The public is paying the bill. And I think maybe they deserve the right to see how the process works. I know I don't know of any place where it's being done, but maybe we can run a pilot. So, if you could check in on Jeff on that, contact our lawyers. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Jen?
A couple things. Many of us, I think, were on the 3rd of November. It was a Saturday at Barnes & Noble for Connecticut Loves to Read Day. Tina and our sons, did a little reading, and that was very nice. We were both there as moms, not as board ed members. This past Saturday, Enfield High had their Safe Grad auction. That was very successful. Pam Lato did a wonderful job with that. Let's see, this week, teacher-parent conferences are going on for the elementary schools, for the 3 to 5s and the K to 2s. Let's see what else. This Saturday, the Enfield High football team has an event going on at Golden Gavel, and I really don't know much about it. Maybe Vinny does. But it's for the football team. It's a fundraiser. And then, there's Barnes & Noble this Saturday. Effie has a book fair night, a book fair during the day. And that's a great organization to be part of. So if you can go in and buy your book for your book club, that would be a good day to do it on Saturday. So, and I just want to thank all the people that worked on the pre-rep committee. They were so excited when they got the news that it passed, and by leaps and bounds, and they were very, very excited. It was just wonderful to see. So that's it.
Thank you. Joyce?
In the past, when I've given Head Start reports, I have often praised the parents for their involvement because they get very involved. Tonight, I get to announce that one of those parents has been selected as a recipient of the 2012 Parental Involvement Recognition Award, which is given by the State Education Resource Center, sometimes known as CERC, and the Connecticut Parent Information and Resource Center, Connecticut PERC. But anyway, Jen Marcos has been made this presentation. She's a very active parent, both in the school, and she has become active on KITE as well. So she's very involved in, and well-deserved, this particular recognition. It is given to individuals based on their merits in each of the following: active involvement in their children's school and/or community, which is definitely accurate, support of their local school and contributions to high-quality education for all children, and in this case, she actually writes books. Evidence of their ability to make a difference in their local school and/or community, and dedication and advocacy to ensure equity for all parents and their children. And this definitely describes Jen Marcus and her involvement.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe you could bring her to a board meeting.
Well, you know, she does have young children. It may be difficult, but we'll ask her if it's possible.
Very good. Donna?
I believe the Hesville Memorial Playground is back open,
Yes, it is.
which I think is a great announcement. I know we always hear when they get closed, but it's nice to hear they're back open. And other than that, I have not been doing many things.
Anything known about the Prudence Crandall playground?
I have not heard about that one.
I believe that they've been done. They actually were done, I think, before the Hazel Memorial one. And I believe that Jeff or Chris are going to meet with them and talk about the other playgrounds and the needs, prior to them being shut down. So we have to shut them down, but talk about what the anticipated needs are and come up with some kind of time frame or something to repair them, right?
That discussion will take place.
Okay. Very good. Chuck?
Thank you. Going to what Mrs. Suzak made her invocation about, first I'd like to say I thought it was wonderful, and I appreciate it. What I'd like to do, it has really nothing to do with the Board of Ed, but I do want to remind people that the Wreaths Across America is still accepting purchases of wreaths to be put out at Arlington or at the grave sites over at St. Patrick's Cemetery. And like I said, I think it's a great program, so if you have an opportunity and you know of a veteran who has passed on, please consider it. Thank you.
Vinnie?
A couple things. Parkman, they're holding a fundraiser at the Barnes & Noble Book Fair December 1st, all day. It supports their One School, One Book fundraiser to purchase books. I also was going to say a little something about their, again, Parkman was picked for a assembly on December 11th, or 11th, right?
11th and
And the 15th is the...
It's at the cemetery.
Yes. It is kind of crowded here, but what Mrs. Sample suggested, maybe people can, I believe the truck is supposed to come into town about 9 o'clock, starting at exit 49, coming down Route 5, going down, I believe, post Weymouth first, and then coming around. They come around, I think. I can get the whole thing.
Come by JFK.
Brave Route, Enfield Street, south on Massport to Post Office Road, right onto Simon Road, right onto Weymouth Road. Come out there and support it. It'd be nice to maybe see, maybe the schools get out there and wave a little flag or something like that, but it fits really good what Ms. Suzak said earlier. It is a great program. Again, December 15th, 12 o'clock, St. Pat's Cemetery for the actual wreath placements and all that stuff. Also wants to give that the Enfield High is actually having their Thanksgiving Day game this year on Thanksgiving Day at 10 o'clock. I'm not sure who they're playing now.
Sports Sciences.
Okay, so hopefully that will have some nice turkey dinners after we kick.
After the game.
Yeah. So. And then, again, I would also like to thank the public for supporting the referendum and to the PAC committee for their hard work and getting the information out there. And as I said that night when we found out that it did pass, it was nice to see a proactive activity, I guess, if you want to say it, by the public in supporting this issue for the consolidation of the high schools. I also would like to wish a fellow board member feeling better soon, because she had a little mishap today, Tina, and hope your recovery is soon and quick. And that's what it.
Very good. I have a couple of things. Along with many other board members, I was at the two reading events this past month. First Readers, which I commend Jeff and Chris. They did a great job up there. And also went to Connecticut, loves, let me get my phrase right here. Connecticut Loves to Read Day, Barnes and Noble. That was really, really fun to go to. I was there when the mayor read his book, and Senator Kissel, and they presented awards to us and so on. But the kids were just so cute, and it was just great. And it was a nice audience. There were a lot of people going in and out of there. I purchased some books. I will go back and purchase the book for the book club, so I'll take you up on that so they get credit for it. But I want to thank Barnes & Noble as well. They did some great things. They're offering us the facility to do it and supporting us all the way through. They provided the gift cards for the kids, the award winners who designed the program. And they also put together a program that allows you to donate another book so that the youngster can read. And I have these cards for you if you choose to do it. It goes right on through the end of December, I believe, right through the Christmas holidays. And all you have to do is when you go up to the cash register, they have a list of kind of appropriate books for the youngsters in different grade levels, and you pick one. They go from $3.99 I think to $12.99. You pay it, and they get it to the kids. And last year I think they gave like 200 books to, and you designate towards kite. Okay, and I think Effie is doing something similar to that. I'm pretty sure. So just write down kite, and they make the donation, and it helps everybody. So I'll pass these out. If people want to do it, made my donation, and it's just fun. It was a lot of fun. They're going to get me to read next year, I understand. Donna, Vinnie, and I got to attend the Chamber's breakfast meeting at the Holiday Inn, where our superintendent was the guest speaker. I think we all felt his presentation was superb. It really captured very succinctly what we're talking about, what we're about as an education program. It gets into the differences, where we're coming from and where we're headed, and it highlights the building program that we have and the STEAM program very, very well. I talked to him today about it. I was really very, very pleased with it. And Donna, you and I have talked about it as well, and Vinnie. I'd like to see it happen again. I think it's really, really concisely done, and I think the public would benefit from it. I know you're going to speak at another occasion, but if we could get that either at a meeting or at the other occasion, get it on ETV, I think it would be well worth it. And it's 5 or 10 minutes. It really wasn't that long, but it was really, really well put together. Finally, I want to thank the public for supporting the referendum, okay? I think we were all hopeful that it would pass. We all felt it was good for the community, but to have the endorsement of a 2-to-1 vote on it was just really, it just kind of warmed your heart. And I think it's a good thing that we all work together on this. And, we're talking about thanking the PAC committee, and certainly the pre-referendum committee and all of them did a great job doing it. But I think the combined nonpartisan approach we all took, every elected official supported this, the entire community supported it. And I think it shows what you can do, and we all collaborate together to get something positive for the town of Enfield. So I congratulate everybody that was involved in that. Like some of the rest of you, I had a chance to go to the parade this time, walk in the parade this year, and always amazed me. I've been in town for 40 years, and this town is one of the few towns that still even has parades, okay? And our cousins and stuff used to come here because they didn't have parades where they were. My grandkids come here to the parades because we have parades. But I don't think they would know much about the veterans or about Memorial Day or things like that without having something like that to provide kind of a great American kind of activity and showcasing the things that go on there. And I just think it's important to have that. And I'm glad this town, which is very, very patriotic and very, very supportive of the veterans, keeps this thing going, because it's not a little job, as we all know. And I was impressed with it. I thought our bands were outstanding. They were just super, and the reception we got along the way from the public was just really fantastic. And so I would thank that Senator Blumenthal came, and the Lieutenant Governor came, and Senator Kissel, and our
the newly elected representatives came. It was just really, really a wonderful day. So I thank them for having it and for taking part in that. And just finally, I'd like to wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and I hope Enfield High wins again. Okay? Moving on here. Approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes. I think it's for October 23rd. Can I have a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any discussion? And then, sensing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? It passes. Item 14, approval of accounts and payroll. I would guess since Tina's not here, there is none? Okay. And we'll move on to correspondence and communication. Do we have any at this point? We do not, okay. Item 16, we have need to go into executive session for matters related to collective bargaining units.
Need a motion for executive session?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Very good, then we will stay here, I believe, and ask just the parties that we need here. Would be,
You can do
Mr.
that,
Coleman.
but we'd have to wait for Walter to wrap up his camera, which could take some time, but we can adjourn over to my office, but I think we can fit, we have 9 of us there.
That'd be fine then, we'll do that. Very good.
That gives him time to get it.